Some time ago, I was discussing music with a friend. I don't quite remember the details, but at some point he said, just listen to game soundtracks. And I just went silent. I needed to process that a little. I know there are people who actually listen to soundtracks on their own, and there are definitely some good soundtracks. But I just felt like soundtracks could never replace the kind of music I listen to, because the sort of stuff I dig tends to be more active, busier, and a lot heavier. And so the question is, are there any video games with black metal soundtracks? Black metal in video games. There sure are games that are heavily inspired by metal music, and some do actually incorporate metal music into their soundtracks, but I got curious to see if I can find any actual black metal. There are games like Doom or Killing Floor that have metal music blasting at all times, and it's properly heavy stuff, but it's not black metal whatsoever. What I'm looking for is the real deal, called and true black metal only. Most games that have metal in them tend to incorporate traditional heavy metal or oftentimes industrial metal, death metal in quite a few cases. I'm not including any of those or any other related subgenres. No games that just look or feel black metal, because the list would be way too long in that case. All I need is to be able to hear real black metal in a video game. I'm also going to ignore games that are purely focused on music like Guitar Hero or Rocksmith, and especially games that allow custom music, because it's no longer the developer's intention to hear these specific songs in their game. So starting off, the first half of my list consists of video games that have licensed pre-existing black metal songs. First, we have GTA 4, The Lost and the Damned, the expansion that's all about biker gangs, and it would be weird for something focused on bikers not to have metal. The game introduces quite a few extreme metal acts to the game's radio, but most importantly for this video, it has Call from the Grave by Bathory. Quite a legendary black metal act. It also has Inner Sanctum by Celtic Frost, which might not sound completely black metal, but I still consider Celtic Frost to be primarily a black metal band. Just instead of copying the second wave Norwegian sound, they carry the legacy of Hellhammer, which belonged to the first wave of black metal in the times where black metal was just starting to shape up and sounded a little different from what we're used to these days. In any case, it's great stuff. Next up we have Tony Hawk's Project 8. The Tony Hawk series is all about skateboarding and the community behind it. Typically, punk rock or hardcore might be more obvious choices, but this installment in the series specifically includes some true Norwegian black metal in it, in the shape of One by One by Immortal. I mean, it hardly gets more black metal than that, when the frontman of the band has one of the most iconic corpse paint designs. Alright, gotta have the obligatory stuff too. Brutal Legend. I love that game, but when I think of Brutal Legend, I think of the typical traditional heavy metal, as it mostly pays homage to some of the older and more legendary bands in the scene. It does, however, have several tracks in its roster that are proper black metal. We have some of that Hellenic goodness with Rotting Christ's Ad Noctis. There's some more symphonic stuff like Hair Goes in the Fog by Cradle of Filth. Or Progenies of the Great Apocalypse by Dimmu Borgir. And as representatives of the Norwegian black metal scene, we've got Emperor with Thus Spake the Night Spirit. All heavy hitters in their own right. Rotting Cries have already been mentioned in this video, but they play quite a big role in Mortal Shell's soundtrack. Turns out Mortal Shell has a DLC that replaces some of the boss fight themes with music from Rotten Christ. It seems to be instrumental versions of their songs, but if it works, it works. And I must say, Rotten Christ is among my favorite black metal bands overall. I would highly recommend seeing them live as they always put on a great show. Great people too, real nice dudes. Now, I was a little surprised that Starfield has some black metal in it. Rare but SW. There's a bar in the game called Last Nova, and it plays exclusively black metal. The music is by a band that shares its name with the game, Starfield. So, it's a pretty nice nod. Lastly, we have Earache Extreme Metal Racing. I'm a bit surprised I didn't know of this game's existence before, as Earache is a pretty major metal label. But the game does look like it's just a cheap marketing stunt to promote the bands in the label. The game has quite a roster of prolific metal bands. There's D-Side, Morbid Angel, Municipal Waste, Napalm Death, At the Gates, Carcass, Godflesh, Bolt Thrower, Sleep, Entombed, and others. Mostly death metal stuff. The one fitting track for this video is Solid Gold Beating by December Wolves. Also, this game has Parasite God by Mortis, and as a big fan of Mortis, I have a vendetta against Earache for hogging the rights to the Smell of Rain album. It's one of my all-time favorites, and it cannot be re-released because of rights disputes. I would fucking love to own it on vinyl, and it's quite odd for it not to be available when Mortis is pretty active on selling vinyls of the rest of his discography. Give back the rights, you bastards! Alright, I did my duty, now let's move on. Now is the time for the half of the video I'm more excited about. Licensing pre-existing music is one thing, but getting some original black metal composed specifically for the game is a whole another step, and a big one at that. First, of all the games out there, surprisingly some of the best black metal in gaming comes from The Sims 2. Yes, you heard it right. The dollhouse game that is often associated with young girls has some of the most solid metal representation in gaming incorporated in its radio, featuring various subgenres of metal. As far as black metal goes, we have a track called Monkey Failure, and just listen to that goodness. It has one of those somber intros, screaming vocals, pretty raw production, it has everything. If I didn't know better, I wouldn't even realize this song is in Simlish, because with the screaming vocals it's hard to tell what's being sung, and I would think it's just some weird Swedish. From what I can find, the track has been composed by John Cobbett, who is a legitimate metalhead who has participated in many bands throughout his career, most notably for this video, Ludicra, which sounds the most like that Sims track. I was quite surprised to find black metal in Sims 2, but it is the most based of the Sims. I was even more surprised to find that The Sims 4 also has some black metal in it, because I have never heard it when playing myself. Turns out it's bundled in one of the endless DLCs of the game. My god, the price of all of them. And out of all the things that could have had black metal included in it, it was a DLC about knitting. Knitting! Now as a seasoned metalhead, I have no clue what knitting has to do with black metal. But let's listen to the song. It's called Forest to Mardu by Necro Fortress. It's some pretty cool stuff. I couldn't find anything more about the band though, so it might have been just made up for the game. I was quite surprised to find some Mercury in that DLC too with, I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce it, Lizzie take it from me.
Ohne børn.
Now this one is a lot softer as far as black metal goes, and it's a pre-existing licensed song too, so it gives me some doubts, but the fact that I can't find any other info about Necrofortress still makes me believe that at least that song might have been original. Next up we have some Painkiller. I really should play the series, it's just sitting there in my library. First off we have Painkiller Resurrection, and the track Gloomy Mountains Fight. From what I can find, the song has been composed by the Austrian band Our Ceasing Voice, and while the band mostly plays ambient rock, that Painkiller track most definitely has some black metal sounding riffage. Then we have Painkiller Recurring Evil, and the Highway to Hell fight theme. It's more like black and death metal, but that's close enough. It's a little tough finding information about the composer, but it seems like the soundtrack for this game is composed by a Polish artist Mikołaj Birek, who is more known for his paintings and illustrations rather than music. The next on the list is Slain. I have a tough relationship with this game. I was actually quite excited for it precisely because of its composer, Kurt Victor Bryant, of Celtic Frost fame, but I was quite let down by the actual gameplay. Maybe the Back from Hell version fixes the game, but I'm no longer willing to try it. Anyway, let's get back to the music. Torn from Light. It's a bit rough, but it has that black metal feel with the cold synths, yet it feels like it's leading to the less traditional first wave black metal style. Continuing on with the same studio, we have Velfaris. Kurt Victor Bryant returns for this one too, so naturally it sounds pretty similar. Curator of Dark Souls. Coming back to higher budget productions, we have Cyberpunk 2077. Usually synthwave is the genre associated with cyberpunk, which is far from punk. Maybe industrial rock too. But Cyberpunk 2077 has a dedicated extreme metal radio station called Ritual FM, and that was my jam throughout my playthrough. First we have the duo of Arthur Rominsky and Haldor Grunberg under the name of Fist of Satan, with the tracks Black Concrete and Abandoned Land. Both of these guys seem to be members of Thaw, Mentor, and Stun for Miles together, while also being active with other projects. Witches of the Heart's Mountains by Marcin Rybinski as Nuclear Aura. Marcin Rybinski is the guitarist of the Polish metal band In Twilight's Embrace. This band I've actually seen live before. Zravie by Videch and Ugori. Finis by Vermin / Piotr Maciejewski. I couldn't find much good info about the people behind the last two songs, unfortunately. I must say, all of these songs are pretty legit. It does take some digging though, because the artists in Cyberpunk's radio get different in-universe band names. But while talking about Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack, I want to mention Entropia too. That was the one band I was actually listening to prior to the game coming out, and it was quite exciting to see them contributing. But unfortunately, I just didn't like their song in the game at all, and think it's quite inferior to their dedicated music. Well, yeah, they play more progressive post-black metal, but the first half of the song, Future Drugs, would just make me want to switch stations every time. Sorry. And that's it for the list. It's honestly shorter than I expected myself. We need more black metal in games. There was quite a lot of metal in gaming that I discovered while making this list, but most of it was leaning towards death metal, industrial metal or deathcore subgenres, which while are heavy, they're not quite as cold and true. Way too marketable and non-controversial. Perhaps there's something I missed? Leave it down in the comments, I'd love to know more about this kind of thing. Hope you enjoyed the video. Consider pressing like if you did, it helps a small channel like mine quite a bit. You can also support me on my Ko-fi page, the link is in the description. Thank you for watching, and see you in another video.